us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
Today on the show, I've got Loren Angelo, Vice President of Marketing at Audi of America. Loren leads marketing positioning and management of the Audi brand in the U.S. He manages advertising, experiential, CRM, social media, product integration, retail marketing, and research strategies for the Audi brand. Being a challenger brand is ingrained in the DNA at Audi, and we talk a little bit about that, the purpose behind their brand activities, taking a stand on issues like equality for women and women's pay, to technology and how they leverage technology in their partnerships with the MLS. I hope you enjoy this show with Loren. Well, Loren, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be talking with you today.
Let's start off with your background and where you started your career and any pivotal twists or turns or mentors along the way.
Yeah, I think when you get to this point in your career, that foundation is such an important piece. And my career really started in the worldwide advertising space. I worked for a number of agencies, but the real impetus behind that was really part of my undergrad program and really getting into probably my junior year, one of the 4P courses, where you started to understand what one of these unique elements of how promotion works and how consumers can really be affected by a key insight, and you can have the opportunity to persuade or influence them. And I thought that being able to have that impact on so many individuals was such an exciting element that really took a hold in my mind and led me into the advertising community, led me into a number of career opportunities with global firms like J. Walter Thompson, Ammirati and Puris, Lowe and Partners, and Merkley and Partners. And it gave me the foundation to really learn about industries very quickly. A lot of experience in the technology sector with IBM and Compaq and America Online, and a lot of opportunity with CPG, packaging, learning basics of objective setting, creative development process, and then a lot in the automotive sector, which ultimately carried me through to where I am today. So roughly 10 years in the agency side of the business with General Motors and with Mercedes-Benz that ultimately helped catapult me into the opportunity to take on a role with Audi.
Like it. And now I've always thought of Audi as having a bit of a chip on its shoulder, or said another way, maybe a better way, as a challenger brand.
Yeah.
Even a personal story, a mentor of mine used to talk about if he ever was a bank robber, his getaway car would be a Series 8. And ever from that moment, I have watched Audi. So anyway, what does leading a brand...
Ronan will do that for you.
Yeah,
you get a good demonstration of the S8's capabilities. You're like, there's a sports sedan that can move.
Yes, exactly. So what is it like to lead a brand like that? One that's got a little chip or a challenger mode?
I think it's one of the best opportunities in any marketer's career, because being able to take a brand that does have that challenger approach that says, I have something to prove, I have a point of distinction, I'm going to challenge the status quo, and being able to not only develop creative that has that impact and helps design the way consumers see that brand, but also live it in every other aspect of your marketing focus, whether it's the way you approach sponsorships, the way you approach your CRM strategy. Being able to take on that attitude and being able to push on the traditional challenges that are laid out in the marketing space, but ultimately against your competitors in a way that ultimately helps define your brand, not necessarily push in a way that's negative, but do it. And this is the fine line we always look at, is what is a way we can make sure that we have that attitude and swagger for Audi and demonstrate our point of view, but not necessarily look at it where we're offensive. That is something that I think a true challenger brand has done well and can really explore the creative outlets to really have an impact on consumers as well. And it's been really exciting to be able to be the humble steward of this brand for many years now.
Nice. This podcast is actually mostly focused on the U.S., but we have lots of listeners across the world, I should say. So how is the Audi brand positioned around the world? I only have a North America or U.S.-centric view of it. And then second part of that question is, what's your version of luxury and the experience you're trying to create?
Well, those two things go very much hand in hand. We position Audi globally as the progressive luxury choice. And by doing so, we make sure that we give consumers the context when you're talking about a brand that's progressive, you're pushing the envelope, you're finding new paths. We do that through technology and innovation. But also when we demonstrate progressive luxury, there's a design standard. There's what I call substance behind the design that we ultimately bring to our storytelling. And it's those characteristics that we utilize on a global scale, but then we have our flavor of that for America to make sure that we're making our technology relevant to U.S. consumers, making our brand relevant. We open conversations. We state our point of view. That's what a progressive brand does because we want to start a conversation. And using the combination, whether it's through product launch activity or ultimately making bigger, more provocative statements, it gives us a chance for consumers to really see Audi as a brand that's truly unique and not more the traditional luxury that many luxury brands had been associated with for years. We can push and strive and deliver all of the characteristics that consumers expect in a well-engineered product with the highest level of technology, with the greatest partnerships, but we don't necessarily have to behave in a way that is expected.
Gotcha. And so you are the head of marketing for Audi America, and you've got a parent organization. Lots of companies operate like that. How do you manage the global versus local needs for the market?
One of the characteristics of that, and I have such a strong relationship with our global head of marketing, and they really, in the way Audi operates, as we see the structure of on a global scale, is how do the markets help support the parent company and the central organization? And one of that is by content development. What are the ways that we can approach content so that it can be utilized across the various markets around the world? Another way is social media is one of the things that we started here in the United States. This has really been the test bed of social media, and it's obviously exploded over the course of the last 10 years. But we were the first to build out the Audi Facebook page. And being able to be a leader in the markets that you certainly have the leading technology, the leading foundation in, gives you an opportunity to help work with the headquarters and be able to grow that space. And so when I look at something like where we've certainly led and brought to life that progressive structure in a unique way in America, is something that we even just built out our third series yesterday with Think Faster on Reddit, where we're taking Audi sport vehicles, we're utilizing the Ask Me Anything format on Reddit and being able to put individuals, key influencers behind the wheel, in some cases in the passenger seat, while they're filmed live, taking on questions from consumers, but demonstrating Audi Sport speed and the performance characteristics, but bringing a certain level of a thought leader focus to that, which is you're utilizing an intelligence of being able to do that at full speed, answering those types of questions. And it's that type of smart, progressive take on just doing a performance ad. Our association with Drive Progress, and it's an initiative that we've had within our organization for a number of years where we're really focused on the growth of women in business. And that type of conversation that we wanted to engage in culturally is a platform that's allowed us to continue our partnerships with the Forbes Women's Business Summit, with the American Film Institute, with our 2-year program where we have an individual that is going through the program and is a female director and has the opportunity to create content in the future. And we want to grow the opportunity for more women in the film and in the entertainment industry. And this was one way through this foundation that Audi could help build into that. So it's those types of things, in addition to our Super Bowl campaign that we did 2 years ago, that are all parts of creating the conversation, demonstrating how that works here in America, but being part of the global structure.
I'm glad you mentioned the Super Bowl commercial. I think the name of it was Daughter, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And the American Film Institute work that you're doing and really taking a stand. The brand's not afraid to take a stand on equality issues as examples. In a world like today, why should a brand do that?
I very much believe in purpose-led marketing. And I think that when you're a brand that positions yourself as a progressive luxury choice, our engineers do that each and every day by challenging the status quo. That's how Audi led with Quattro all-wheel drive technology that now the industry has adopted. Audi led with LED lighting technology was the first that the industry has adopted. And there's a series of those other firsts. We need to do the same thing in our marketing And a progressive brand has to ultimately move forward. And by moving forward, we can engage conversations or start conversations that should be debated. But you have to start with, do you believe in these things? And within our organization, this is something that Audi of America has been very focused on for several years now. How do we bring more women into the technology sector? How do we bring more women into our organization? How do we challenge the status quo of the 20 percentages that exist within the automotive industry as far as women working in our workforce? And so that idea and that drive that we have within our culture was something that we have set a high bar on. We have goals we need to achieve. We certainly haven't accomplished everything, but we do have pay equity within our organization, equal pay for equal work. And it was something that was very much a conversation that was happening in society at a strong level and something we wholeheartedly believed in. And we feel like the Super Bowl is a very important place to raise a conversation, and certainly something not only that you believe in, but something that consumers can relate to. And so we wanted to use that platform. Yes, we introduced the Audi S5 Sportback at the same time, but we wanted to utilize that platform to engage that conversation and make sure that we're building awareness around it because it's something that was important to us. But you certainly, as a marketer, you have to make sure that it is something that is part of the core values of your company that you've invested in and be beyond just the Super Bowl campaign. We as a company had signed the White House Equal Pay Pledge. We had invested in a number of STEM programs. I mentioned the AFI partnership that we have and the 2-year Female Director Grant initiative, sponsor of the Forbes Women Business Summit. So there's a series of things that we've done as one of the initiatives that we believe can drive progress forward in our society that we wanted to take a stand on.
Like, you haven't stopped at purpose or societal issues. I want to talk about, you've brought technology and innovation to partnerships that you do in marketing as well, like the Audi Player Index for Major League Soccer. You're almost innovating on how you work with partners, whether there's, it's a sponsorship deal or whatever it is. Why do you do that, one? And then two, what does it do for you?
Well, it goes back to the authentic position we hold as a brand. If we're positioned as a progressive brand, a brand that progress comes through the technology that not only takes the investment and that our engineers do in our products, we need to bring that to life, again, going to our purpose in our focus with our partners. Being a step and repeat brand, meaning the step and repeat boards that consumers get just because you're a sponsor of said event, is not necessarily the type of experience that we feel that Audi should bring. We should add to the sport. We should add to the partnership that we bring to life. Our goal in engaging the partnership with Major League Soccer was we identified a cultural opportunity. And that cultural opportunity was Major League Soccer in America was taking hold. This was right around the time of the World Cup. Broadcast rights on ESPN and Fox had been secured, so consumers could start to see their teams and start to gather a local association, which they'd never been able to do. You couldn't find you'd have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch someone for the European teams play. But now consumers on Saturdays and Sundays can watch those games happening here in America. Those two opportunities with the growing interest in soccer, the investment, and really the challenger spirit that Major League Soccer was taking on. It was like-minded for us as a brand. They said that they wanted to go and compete against Major League Baseball and the NFL for mind state of American time. And whether that was viewership, whether that was ultimately participation, they were looking. And we see the statistics continuing to grow. Ratings consistently are up year over year. And it was a place where we could associate with a like-minded brand. We could ultimately do something to help grow the sport of soccer in America by bringing something to it. And the case of what we brought to it was the Audi Player Index. And so on the MLS app, we were able to bring statistics to the game where this application actually looks at each player's behavior on the pitch and gives them a score based on different tactics that they utilize during the game. And ultimately, that Audi Player Index is something that consumers can follow over the course of the year and determine how their players are actually working within the game. And it's amazing with all the statistics we have in other sports in the United States that this wasn't something that was available. It wasn't even in Europe. And so it allowed Audi to bring the technology to the game of soccer in America and able to give us something that was additive to the experience for consumers so they could engage more, be more enthusiastic about this game that many Americans are learning about and spending more time with.
Yeah, when I caught wind of it and when we were doing research for this, it kind of blew me away because you think of a traditional American sport like baseball, there's stats out the wazoo.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And the fact that there really isn't stats for soccer, I was like, what? This makes no sense. So kudos. That's a great little wedge you've created for yourself.
Thank you. We're looking for ways to continue to grow it because as more and more people in America are becoming engaged with MLS, engaged with soccer as an overall sport, as MLS continues to do the great growth that they do. We think that there's a lot of opportunities to help bring fans into it and give them more of an opportunity to engage not only with the index further, but engage with the way that they interact with their teams.
Right. Now, one ad recently called Driver for the R8 caught my attention, and I'll name the guy. So my Twitter feed is made up of people that like to comment on advertising. Okay. And a friend who's been on the podcast before, Bob Hoffman, who calls himself the ad contrarian, I think loved the ad. And when that's
I always like to hear that.
That's a pretty high bar for Bob because most listeners know Bob doesn't really love much. So when it caught his attention, I had to take a second look. But with that, I wanted it, it conjures up this world for people that haven't seen that. It conjures up this world of driverless cars and personal assistants and the human desire to potentially reject a little bit of it, right? And get back to feeling things viscerally, maybe. Can you tell me a little bit about that ad and where it came from?
Yeah, certainly. We're really proud of that work. And the basis of the idea is Audi has always been a brand that's looked to enhance the driver's experience. That's been our focus in everything that our engineers do, in every way that we try to portray the brand. In today's very changing world of the transportation industry, with what's happening with automation, certainly what's happening with high-performance vehicles. We know that in many cases, when you look at our drivers and the people that are attracted to the Audi brand, their sole goal is how do you enhance the driving experience overall? And so we wanted to step back from that and really celebrate that opportunity, that the real emotion, the emotion that many of us have grown up with through years of those experiences that you associate, whether it's with your friends growing up, that first drive experience, whether it's getting a chance behind the wheel of your first car that you've put your money down on, that drive experience has so many memories and so many associations. And we wanted to celebrate that because now is a time with all of the discussions that are going on with what will the future of driving in fact entail, that consumers can really celebrate this driving moment. And Audi's at the forefront of all of these investments, which we look at in context of technology, how automation will ultimately come to life, working with our government in context of what the future will ultimately hold. And in the end, we do believe that technology and that enthusiasm that comes from the driving experience, those things will coexist. In this particular ad, we just wanted to take a note on the fact that at all of those times, the time to drive and the feel, the enthusiasm of holding the wheel and getting the experience and the emotion that comes with that is something that is seated in many consumers' mind, and let's celebrate it.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
and what better way to celebrate than behind the wheel of an R8 Spider?
That's very true. You answered my question, but my follow-up question was going to be, was Audi making a statement, or are you rejecting driverless cars? But it sounds like you want to live in a world where those things can coexist.
Exactly. Audi has been at the forefront of these technology investments, the leadership in automated driving for a number of years and pushing the industry forward, going back to the challenges a number of years ago, looking at taking the first vehicle up Pikes Peak and continuing to push on the forefront of what will ultimately happen in this space. And it's an exciting time. We are an industry that is very much at the center of disruption in this space, and we're certainly looking to continue to lead the conversation there.
Cool. So we're talking about the future in technology. If we pivot a little bit, how are you thinking about technology in the marketing function?
I mean, there is so much in our space that is extremely exciting right now. Many industries are in this state of disruption, not just the automotive sector. And when I look at the advertising marketplace, it's another where there's a litany of consumer choices right now. And there's new solutions coming up, not only in the way that you can take in your media, whether you look at the Sling boxes and the direct TVs and the others, but the number of choices and the way in which the number of different properties and the companies that are actually creating content in different ways that consumers can look at all that. I very much believe that this world of artificial intelligence and the way that we are so focused on that from a company standpoint in the engineering of our vehicles and The partnerships with Amazon and with Google has certainly helped us continue to be a leader in that space, is something that is going to really change and help us really push forward in personalizing experiences for consumers in the advertising world. And so artificial intelligence has been something that we've done several base level testing scenarios with. I'm part of the IBM Watson Cognitive Media Council, where we're looking at some of the new applications that they're introducing for how marketers can navigate this space, how we can test future opportunities. And I believe that the more personalized that we can make the experience for the consumer and the more relevant we can make the storyline, if they've spent time on Audi USA and they've configured a vehicle, and how we bring that message back to them or how we reach them in the first place based on other things that they've done in their lifestyle experiences online, the better off we will be. And AI is certainly a great way of being able to distill the information and serve up an appropriate Audi message for them.
Okay, good. What does your talent pool look like? You've got internal folks, external partners, and for external, I'm curious too, what are the types of partners you work with? I think you work with a number of them. Maybe give a little sense of like internal versus external, and then maybe go into partners, if you don't mind.
I'm really proud of the team that we've built here at Audi of America. We do leverage our global network, and having the opportunity to liaison with our headquarters and being able to gain expertise and be able to share content is a key resource in an industry which is constantly striving for more content. And there are many mouths to feed as a head of marketing when you look at your social channels and your website, and in our case, our dealer screen networks and all the other components of your systems. But our team is really focused on very specific business leads who lead the various facets of marketing, whether it's social media or media strategy, CRM leadership, retail marketing, being able to make sure that we bring that group of experts in, and then we have a strong, what I would call the extension of our marketing team, which is a series of boutique agency partners around the country that really help facilitate. They're really best in breed in their respective spaces. And that allows us in key markets like New York and San Francisco and Los Angeles to really build out this foundation of brilliant creative minds, individuals that are pushing on the same level of innovation and that have the same type of progressive stance that we hold as a brand, and bring that kind of DNA focus into their environments. And that allows us to continue to push forward with some of the brilliant creative campaigns and creative marketing programs that we've done in the past.
There's a lot of moving pieces. Who takes the lead in orchestration? Is that done here in some sort of strategy function or something?
It is. We have a very detailed planning process that we go through each year that we at Audi of America lead. And that process really requires all agencies to play together well in the sandbox. Mm-hmm. And I think between the behavior of my team, the real feedback, real-time scenarios that we put together, and the level of inspiration that we spend a lot of time focused on. I want my agencies inspired. I want them to inspire us. And that level of cross-collaboration and making sure that we put some level of clear structure about we need to get to said point, and these are the key milestones we need to hit. That type of open dialogue and making sure that we're really seeking out those more disruptive behaviors along the way has been a good working system for us.
Okay. And so as you look ahead for marketing and what you're looking to do and drive, are there any unanswered challenges ahead or opportunities you're trying to crack the nut on?
I think in today's marketplace, there's plenty as the head of marketing that you have to be able to start to look beyond. That key to inspiring is something I have to relook at every day. How do I keep teams and individuals motivated and culturally curious on what are some of the guiding forces of what is going to affect consumers in the future? And so that can come from not only programs like what we look at in artificial intelligence, but the dizzying array of options that come in the world of digitalization, and some of our customer-centric platforms. How are we treating the customer different in the store? What's the full consumer journey? That is something with all the platform work that we need to continue to develop, in the way in which we reach consumers throughout that journey is one of the big challenges. And AI plays a big role in that. So The last one I would really look at is really purpose-led marketing. How do we continue, whether it is something like our Drive Progress initiative or as we evolve to other programs, how do we make sure that we're always giving anyone who engages in one of those sponsorship experiences or one of our shared partners who may be a disruptor in that stage, how do we make sure that Audi has a clear point of view in that relationship and that we stay consistent in our storyline and they really do feel like, wow, I'm associated with this progressive brand. This brand's really making a difference as a part of this partnership and adding value to my experience.
Okay. Well, I want to switch gears because I think folks that listen to the show like me to get to know the person as well. So We'll switch gears a little bit. And in doing so, I really like to know what makes up the person that's across the table. And I love this question. People take it in many different ways, but is there an experience of your past that defines who you've become or who you are today?
I feel like a lot of what defines an individual comes from those basic values that you're taught early on and the driven tenacity that I've had in my career and that willingness to push and find alternative ways and say, I'm going to be the champion on this, or even what has embodied the Audi DNA, which I say, comes all the way from our founder of finding a better way and a better solution, comes from a strong work ethic that, was taught by my father and my grandfather, was always pushing ahead, small businessmen who had to fend for themselves and find those solutions. And when times were tough, find an alternative path and come up with different ways to build their businesses. And that in combination with my interest in marketing, which, as mentioned earlier, really did start early on. And I think for so many individuals starting their career, it's just unclear. I don't know, how did you end up in this space? What led you to that guiding force? And for me, it fortunately happened in coursework in an undergraduate program, but that for many people, that doesn't happen as well and or as quickly. And I'd say seeing certain mentors in my career that helped, I would say, fan the flame and help build that career interest. And when maybe some things weren't exciting as others, when you're working on a certain product that may not necessarily have the same level of excitement as driving an S8 or an R8, but when you're working on a bar of soap or something like that, to be able to understand how it is foundationally going to be important and what is this going to build as a stepping stone in your career. And finding those individuals in the interview process, I always found I can size people up pretty quickly, not only when I'm being interviewed, but also when they're interviewing me. That really helps to know, are these the people you want to work for? And I've fortunately worked with some really great leaders across my career that have given that guidance. And so combination of having your own personal tenacity, I'm going to push forward, I'm going to find my career paths, but I'm also going to help this brand push its way ahead. But then being able to identify those leaders and having those people invest in time and asking the right questions of them has been important growth for me.
Good. Well, so the next question, and I guess there is a pun, is what drives you personally?
It is a guiding force to ultimately want to make something better. And what I mean by that is making things better for my team. And can I inspire them and help grow and develop their careers? Can I make this brand better? What am I going to do tomorrow that's going to be better than today? And some of that has going to be looking at a year and what are the paths to get us there. And some of the things are the basics of what we can do to help us in the next 30 days on retail sales. But then the last thing is looking at my family and my personal life and taking care of me and making sure that whether it is setting a goal to run this sprint triathlon for the first time this year, or personally to make sure that my children are having the experiences that I want them to have to be able to grow and develop beyond what they're experiencing in their day-to-day, whether that's planning the right trip. It's being able to having that approach, saying, well, I'm going to have to spend some time planning those things. And so you need to take the time and the energy, but having that willingness to push and make someone's life better. And that's one of the reasons I've been involved with the DC Scores, which is a charitable foundation here in Washington, which touches 2,500 children. And the goal of their program is to build an after-school program for these kids. They get to do after-school soccer training, and they also get to do after-school creative development, which is primarily based in poetry. So an odd combination, but ultimately a combination that works and extremely successful. And they have 20-something schools on their waiting list. And it's just another foundation of that focal point for me, which is how can I do something that can help give back to ultimately make that better. It obviously is related to soccer, something I'm personally invested in, and focused here in our community, which is also a focal area for me.
Sounds like a great organization. Most marketers tend to be students of other things that they watch, right? Are there brands or companies that you follow or you think other people should be taking notice of?
There's quite a few. I think if you're a marketer who's pushing a challenger brand, you're always looking over your shoulder to say, who's doing this well? And there's certainly a variety of iconic brands that I look at. But I'd say the brands that I admire for their tenacity and their challenger spirit, one would be Patagonia. I love their purpose-led focus. I love their commitment to those things in all aspects of their business. I look at a brand like Under Armour, who also takes a challenger approach, and very much the way they approach the world of social media, the way they approach video content, and ultimately bringing their brand to life is very consistent with a lot of the ways that we go to market. And the last one I would say is a brand like Fast Company. Fast Company does a very good job of not only giving you the context of business, but I think the way that they bring that brand to life and evolve it from not necessarily just being a story of how business pushes forward, but you as an individual and how you can be a disruptor in your space and giving you key insights and others to help drive your business forward, but drive your personal brand forward. It's good context. So those are a couple that I kind of keep on my radar.
Well, last question for you. What do you see for the future of marketing? What does it look like?
Well, I wholeheartedly believe that this world of purpose-led marketing, making sure that in that purpose-led world, you're not just following that with your staid and traditional approach, but doing it in ways that are truly innovating and enhancing the experience for the customer, whether it's on site at an event, whether that's through your social media marketing programs, your CRM, but that your brand has to authentically live up to that. I believe that that's something consumers look for brands that share their values. And if your values are consistent and you're willing to go out on a limb and defend those and build conversations around them, consumers are going to be, the studies clearly show, more attracted to that brand. And so I believe that that is going to be a key differentiator for brands that are willing to take the brave note and stick up for things that they believe in. But they have to have the backing and the real internal support and real demonstration of those acts and commitments to be able to continue to focus on that. And the other I very much believe in is with the growth of digitalization, and that has so many aspects across a business. It's the platforms consumers interact with, it's your website, it's your social world, but specifically as artificial intelligence continues to grow, I believe that there's clearly an opportunity for brands to engage in that and be smarter about the way that we can personalize those experiences so consumers aren't spammed, so consumers aren't getting the irrelevant level of content that they're receiving today. And as we become more personalized in the media choices that we're able to make and the properties and the brands that we're willing to associate ourselves with, artificial intelligence is going to give us that opportunity to make sure that some of those programs are more tailored to the way that we want to receive them as consumers. And so I think we as brands have a lot of work to do with the growing elements of what's happening with data analysis in our space. It's in its infancy, but I believe that's clearly a great opportunity for marketers in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was good speaking with you today.
Marketing Today is brought to you by Atomic. Atomic focuses on unleashing the growth potential for clients we serve. Atomic is a strategic consultancy specializing in business, marketing, brand, and innovation. Our singular goal is to help you accelerate your efforts with the right mix of expertise, analysis, and creativity. Check us out at atomic.com, ATOMCK.com. Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me, with writing and editing by Kevin Greeley, Social media support by Megan Woods. Art and graphic design by Sarah Dell. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and colleagues about the show.
I love to hear from listeners, and you can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes with links to anything we talk about on any episode. You can also search our archives.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.